And welcome. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to ADHD reWired, Coach's weekly recap, live and uncensored, which is our current working title, to be determined, still evolving. But hello and welcome. This is where we meet every week to discuss what's going on in the ARC program. It's myself, Coach Kristin Marts, myself, Coach Brian Entler, and Coach Kristin Marts, and we like to invite another point of view, someone who's been through the program, maybe an admin, maybe one of our current members. Today we are welcoming Emerson, who is a fabulous member of our alumni community, alumnus of ADHD reWired coaching and accountability groups, and has recently completed a stint as one of our admins, our administrative assistant and peer mentor support for our current coaching members. Hello, Emerson. How's it going?
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And hello, Kristin. How are you doing?
Hi, doing great. Rushing to get here because I did my daily walk that I'm trying to be accountable for, getting more exercise.
Absolutely great. All right, everyone. So it's exciting times. We are rolling over into a new season. We just started season 36, the 36th iteration of our coaching and accountability groups. I
Whoop,
don't know
whoop.
what our total is, but we put at least 1,200 people, individuals have gone through the ADHD reWired program in the 10 or so years that Eric has been working on it. And so exciting to get a new season up and running. I just had my orientation section for section one this morning, which, by the way, if you're listening at home, today is April 12th. And as of today, we still have a few spots left in section one. So reach on out if you have a question, we can slip you in there. Kristin, you had your orientation session yesterday.
Yes, I'm kind of the evening coach. And for some international people, we have two Aussies in our group. So they are, when we say Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday for our groups, their days are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So it gets a
Yeah.
little tongue tied sometimes. But it's awesome. They were just so ready to be there and lots of smiles. It was wonderful last night. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. And just, yeah, folks, so we accept the beauty of virtual work the way we do, because all our coaching programs are online. We take coaching clients from all over the continental United States and all over the world. And sometimes the timing with time zones and days becomes a little bit challenging, but that's just part of the experience. I think it's really great to get different cultural points of view and different ideas and voices from around the world, always really add to the experience.
On that note, I happen to know that Emerson, when you went through coaching yourself, not the admin piece, but your program, that you had Australian members also.
Yeah,
Can you speak a little bit to that about what that was like for maybe some of those members out there that are listening that might be interested in doing it, that are in a different country and wondering how that works?
yeah. I was in the evening section. Well, it was evening for U.S. time zones, and then I think it was split evenly. Like half of us were based in the continental U.S. and the other half were in the Oceania time zones. So there was some Australia, and then we had one person based in Guam. So there's kind of that like Pacific region. And so it was like morning for them, and then the other half of us were like off our meds at night, like a little more discombobulated. But it was a cool mix, and I think they were able to split it. I think they were about like two and two in each of the A teams as well. So um, there was a good mix. It definitely made coordinating our meetings outside of sessions tricky because we had very small time windows when like everybody, I know like my group, we had like a central time zone, a Pacific time zone, and then two different time zones in Australia that we were trying to coordinate around. But we made it work, and we still meet occasionally as well.
Yeah, it's great to hear that you were able to make it work. I've had a few here and there in some of mine, but I knew that yours had a more extensive mix. So that's really great to hear that it works out. It has worked out in my groups also.
Yeah, I think
Awesome.
it was nice when everybody was dealing with it because it was like every A team was having the same difficulty of like scheduling, and it made it a lot more flexible to be like, yeah, like if you can't meet before or after your A day and C day, like if it works on your B day, go for it. If it works on a different day, go for it. Had a
I
lot
bet that
more.
really tapped into the ADHD executive function
Mhm.
challenges too.
Awesome. So we just had our first day, our orientation session. We call it day 0. Kristin, how did your session go this season and or just this time around? And just briefly, how did you think it went? And then also, what do you think the biggest challenge for people starting a program like this? Because I'm an alumnus of the program. I started with the program back in season 22. Kristin shortly thereafter, and
Yeah.
Emerson started a little bit more recently than us. So let's compare notes. How did your session go, and what do you think the biggest challenge, or what is the most biggest takeaway of the experience of starting something like this for the first time?
Yeah. So I think um, up until probably maybe this session, maybe last season, um, everyone has seemed to know how to use Zoom and use it very well because that's our platform that we meet on. I did have one member last night say, I am Zoom illiterate. And so that is part of our orientation is kind of going through those steps and the pieces of Zoom that we use specifically. So we do an onboarding piece to that.
Mhm.
For anyone out there listening that's contemplating doing these groups, we do help you walk through it. And you can learn. She was picking it up just like that. And then some of the members are learning some of the pieces of Zoom that they had never used before. So we do walk through that so that that is at the beginning, set and put together. We have our admins who help out that they can reach out to and ask those questions for further tutorials. And that could be one of the biggest challenges for some. I think one of the biggest, and it's not so much a challenge for me because I'm a therapist and I'm really open and vulnerable myself. I think though that for a lot of people, this could be a real hard thing to want to join because of maybe a social anxiety piece or just a thing of where are you in the moment with the relationship with your ADHD. You might be, joining because it's a last ditch effort to try to save your job or things like that. I went through 2 firings and was joining during the lockdown, but I had lost because I couldn't do my notes on time. I'm really good at what I do, yet couldn't get it on time. And so that was a real struggle and I was feeling really bad about myself. So I think being vulnerable and open, that can be a very big challenge, but we work very hard to create a safe and secure open space among the members in the section. I think that's why it's really important to have the 10-week program itself.
Yeah.
You really
Yeah.
develop some great bonding.
Yeah, that is my key takeaway is that for many people, and this is my experience, joining a program like this was the first time I'd ever worked in a collaborative environment. And so many of our alumnus, the people we work with, say, I didn't see this, I didn't anticipate it, but being in a room or a working environment with all other people who are also ADHD or neurodiverse, and an environment where we don't have to conceal or mask in any way, it is really can be just that experience can be transformative, but it takes a little while to build that trust, to build that confidence in it, because this is really the first time. Many people, even if we are diagnosed, even if we are treated, many of us internalize or have that knee-jerk reaction where we have to mask, we have to conceal our traits. So it takes a little bit of time to get accustomed to that. There's kind of a learning curve with it. And that's what I think is like, and we start that the moment we start meeting is when we start breaking that down and start working with that. Emerson, do you remember that being your first session day as a coaching member versus your first session day as an admin? Was there a contrast in the experiences, or what are your thoughts about when we begin meeting in this environment for the first time?
Yeah, I think there's definitely, at least for myself, when I was first starting, there was like kind of a hesitancy of like, okay, I'm coming into a group where like I know nobody here. There's 11, 12 new faces that I'm now trying to like virtually gauge or like get a sense of like the different social expectations that are held by everybody, and that's hard for me to do in person, let alone virtually. So like creating that rapport and that trust with people to know that like okay, like it's okay for me to open up about XYZ. It definitely takes a little bit, but I think that's natural with any group that you're meeting for the first time. um, but I think this session, like as we go, I feel like it's usually around like end of week 1, beginning of week 2, kind of when you start to like crack some shells a little bit more, get people to open up, just because you've had that time to kind of like, okay, you're settling in a little bit, you get a feel for the flow of how things are going, you've engaged with people multiple times, so you have a little bit more of an idea of like, okay, this person talks a lot, this person is a little bit more quiet, like this is, you get a sense for those things, and I think that just kind of people naturally settling into things allows them to open up. But it definitely, I think the best way to kickstart all of that, in my opinion, is having admins and coaches like being willing to be open and vulnerable, like right off the bat, like, and not necessarily like just like dumping everything out there, but just like willing to be like, hey, this is something, like normalizing those things that like we all experience, like having the confidence to talk about those things right off the bat and being like, oh yeah, sorry guys, like I was running a minute late, time blindness, it happens, like let's get to it, like
That's
just normalizes
amazing
it.
that Emerson, you just said at the end of week 1, and I just went, wow, it's like I'm there and I know it, but that sounds really fast. And that's awesome. That's awesome that even though I feel it because I value connection so much that I work hard to connect with others, that's amazing to know that someone else who is not on the coaching side has been feeling that and noticing that that happens so quickly.
Well,
Um,
yeah, that's why I think the power of the group coaching experience. One of the preconceived ideas that a lot of people come in with is like they equate it to the idea of class size, as in like in elementary school, or the idea is like, oh, if the class size is smaller, you'll get more individualized attention from the teacher. And this is differentiating coaching from a class. This is an interactive environment where the more voices we have, the more similar people. The I find I my personal belief is like individual coaching is great. Go do that, but then also try some group coaching is so much more interesting, dynamic, and diverse, and we have so many more diverse points of view. It actually gives and this the interaction with other people, like I mentioned before, of like who have a similar shared experience. That connection that we grew, that seeing the similarities and the differences between ourselves and having that shared experience, that is what gets people to a place where they're ready to actually open up and really embrace their behaviors. I think we get there so much faster and so much more effectively working as a team, working in a group environment than working like with an individual therapist or an individual coach. And I'm not in any way drawing a direct comparison. It's apples to oranges, but I always try to feel like there's actually a great advantage to working in a team environment like this. And one of it is like it helps us get through all those defense mechanisms that we've built up for our whole lives a lot more effectively. It helps us get through all that knee-jerk reaction that we want to mask. It helps us actually bring that stuff out into the light a lot more quickly than another approach.
that's so interesting that you're talking about all of that with the masking and the idea of how group is so much more interactive because it's not just the teacher's brain like in a classroom that is being
Mhm.
disseminated. It is
Hmm.
everyone sharing their brains with each other. And if we look at the clinical end, and please don't quote me because I don't have it right in front of me, but I'm going to guess if I can remember with my working memory, that the presentations of ADHD just based on the DSM, the Statistical Manual of Diagnoses. I think I said that right. Mental health diagnoses. If you had people line up side by side, shoulder to shoulder, across a path, and each one of them had one single thing different, I think it totals up to 6,000 different bodies because you're including length of time with the different, symptomology, uh, um, there's a whole variant of things. It's not just one particular symptom that shows up, it's how it shows up too. And there's so many symptomology pieces, presentational behavior presentation pieces that we don't even include in the DSM right now. They're still working on those for the adult versions of ADHD because that's still pretty new and out there
Yeah,
as the
the
research
DSM is a
proceeds.
lagging indicator
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
because there's such a huge like administrative process to making changes to the
Right.
DSM. Like
Every
the
10
DSM
years.
is like 5 to 10 years behind where science is usually.
Yeah. Yeah. So imagine that. We probably sitting here, we all have very different presentations of it. So that's what I think is really helpful with the power of that group, is
Hmm.
that we're bringing those minds to it and we're finding the connections even among those differences.
Yeah, you're able to see that many different versions, and even amongst how everybody experiences their ADHD, but also like how they experience it in their life, like in their job, in their family life, with their friends, like with all these different things, and saying like, oh, well, like, I don't have the same job as this person, but the way they talk about like how they were working with their boss to accommodate themselves, like maybe I could take some of that and apply it to my job, and like, it's not going to be directly applicable, but like how, like you get more ideas, you see more baselines for like where you could start and where you could grow, and different paths that you can go on. So I think it helps exponentially, just in terms of like the brainstorming that you're able to do for seeing like how can I adjust my life in ways that will be helpful.
Okay. Great. So we are getting close to, we want to keep these short form, short and sweet. Kristin, your top takeaway for the initial meeting at the beginning of a process like this, what would you tell somebody who thinks they might want to put themselves in this position, but they're not sure if it's for them? Or if you were going to describe this to somebody completely outside of this environment, how would you describe it? What is your top bullet point?
Mm. That would be like I'm still lost on the question itself.
Your top insight or aha after our discussion today about what the takeaway about the importance of a meeting
Oh,
when we start a program like this, a new undertaking, when we're gonna get into a new environment. What was your top takeaway, either as a coach or as someone who has completed it?
I love that you now that I understand it, I love that you asked it because I don't even think we've said this phrase yet. Yet we've talked all around it. This is a place of no judgment.
Oh,
We have a place to come and be vulnerable so easy, as Emerson said. It They noticed it at the end of group week 1 that people are already becoming vulnerable in the group, and I think that is a big factor of it, is that you may come here and you may still feel like your ADHD presents differently, yet you're going to find connection, and you're going to find those connections because we are not allowing these judgments. We have had enough judgment in our lives. We don't need it here for sure. We can't grow. We can't grow if we're constantly judging.
absolutely. I'll just concur and add on. My top takeaway is that this is the point where, you know, growth happens when we can actually meet ourselves where we are, when we can accept, like, have that radical kind of acceptance, like, okay, this is where I am, this is who I am today, and I'm going to start working on that. And we can't get to that place very easily if we are masking, if we're hiding from other people, if we are editing our outward presentations to match other people's expectations, and we are not being authentically ourselves. And we can't grow as ourselves if we are hiding that, if we're pretending to be someone else. And though that messaging, we've had it our whole lives, it has become intertwined with our consciousness. It takes a while to unravel that. And this is exactly just the starting point. This is the first step on that, journey of 1,000 steps, where we start to really look at ourselves. So I'm going to concur and kind of vibe on your point. Emerson, your thought, what is your biggest takeaway or aha or insight about week 0, or the beginning of this program, or just in getting into an environment like this?
Yeah, I think like starting anything new is scary for a lot of people. Like there's a lot of change that happens, and especially with this coaching group, it's a lot. Like there's a time commitment that you're committing. So your routines are going to be changed and altered around this, and I think that can be jarring for folks if you're not like preparing yourself ahead of time. So I think it can be helpful to say like give yourself grace and know that like everything's not going to change right away. It takes time. That's why there's 10 weeks. And so in these first couple weeks, like allowing yourself to say, hey, like it's okay that there's not like clear progress being made. Like the whole group is the progress, like the little baby steps that you make in week 0 and week 1. And even if it's steps backwards, it leads to steps forward. Like
Hmm.
it's all part of that journey. And loop back in, like to what you guys said, there's that piece of no judgment, that like allow it for yourself just as you would allow it for the other people in your group.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we are trying to keep these short form, so we're going to wrap it up on that point, but I think we really covered it. Thank you so much, Kristin. Thank you so much, Emerson.
Thank you, Emerson.
And if you're listening to this on YouTube, please check out the link that will be included in the posting to our webpage where we talk about our group. As of today, April 12th, 2024, we still have some availability for the program that is starting on Monday. Reach out, hit us up. We would love to talk to you, even if it's a little bit past Monday. Who knows? We'll see. And other than that, just check out our website and reach out to us through the ADHD reWired website. We love meeting and talking to people in our community. And
Bye, everybody.
bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning
Bye.
in.